Now our political reporter Karen Binney joins us now from Parliament House. And Karen, good morning to you. While the hunt for the gunman goes on, there's a movement in political circles. Julia Gillard's coming home. What else is happening in politics surrounding this issue?
Well, good morning, Paul. That's right. The Prime Minister's cut short her trip to the Pacific Island Forum in the Cook Islands. She flew out yesterday and has arrived home overnight. We've also got the Defence Minister and the Chief of the Defence Force also heading home from trips to Vietnam. So they've cut short their trips as well. They'll be briefed today, no doubt, on the incidents overnight and the latest on the manhunt, and also the investigation into the chopper crash, which of course killed the 2 SAS soldiers. So we've got the insider attack, as we heard, the man in uniform, in an Afghan uniform, an Afghan soldier. It's been confirmed, shot dead the 3 Australians and wounded 2 others. From here, the Prime Minister will get briefings and no doubt will update the media and the country later on today if there are, in fact, any more updates and if the man is actually found.
Now, Karen, in that discussion Karina had with Major Wojak before, trust was something that came up, and it's coming up in all conversations, this issue of trust between Australian forces and the men and women that they're trying to train.
That's right. These insider attacks, or green on blue attacks as they're also known, have been increasing over the past couple of years. Since 2008 they've been steadily on the rise. So far this year about 45 coalition troops have been killed in these sort of attacks. Last year Australian troops, there were 4 killed in the insider attacks and about 10 wounded last year. So these deaths this year, from the 3 deaths yesterday, are the first this year that we've seen from insider attacks. But the Afghan ambassador to Australia says they're designed to undermine trust in the coalition troops, and it's definitely a technique that's being used by the Taliban.
The major cases, most of the cases so far, you find some hands, behind it. You find out that, the enemy is designing this kind of green on blue, that they understand that this has becoming a very potent technique of eroding trust between the Afghan forces, Afghan National Security Forces, and the ISAF forces, with an aim that to disrupt the NATO training mission.
And as you heard there, it's designed to undermine trust and disrupt the mission and disrupt what Australian forces are over there doing. But one of the former commanders of the Australian forces in Afghanistan says that there has to be work done to essentially rebuild that trust between Australian troops and between the Afghan soldiers that they are indeed training.
What must be done is to reunify the 2 groups. It is essential that it happens. The whole mission rests on the trust that exists now, until today, between the Afghan and the Australian soldiers, because at the end of the day, they have to work together. It can't be done any other way. It can't be done in isolation by the Australians, and the Afghans are not ready to do it alone. It must be a 2-way activity.
John Cantwell there on Late Line last night. Karen, just moving to the other big story yesterday, and the search for more survivors in that asylum seeker boat that went missing off Java. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
Well, overnight we heard news that 55 people have been rescued by the various rescue operations that are in the area. But of course, the air surveillance was called off overnight because it's essentially dark. But several ships did remain in the area overnight and continued to look. The latest we have is that no more survivors were found overnight, but as I said, there have been about 55 people plucked from the water. 3 have serious injuries and are being treated on HMAS Maitland. That search, though, will resume at first light this morning. We heard Jason Clare, the Home Affairs Minister, talk yesterday about the window of opportunity for rescuing people, 36 to 48 hours. We've now passed the 48-hour period, so even yesterday the authorities were saying that the hope is fading and they have grave fears for the people still in the water, but we have now passed that 48-hour period where it's increasingly less likely that survivors will be found in the water.
But the search, in what form will it continue today?
Well, the ships will remain in the area. The Indonesians had ships in the area last night. The merchant ships were also in the area. The Australians are expected to no doubt fly over the area again today, providing that aerial surveillance. So we'll wait and see. We're waiting on an update from the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, and no doubt we'll know more later on this morning.